Hello and welcome. In this session, we are going to learn how to obtain the continuous archiving and how to perform a point-in-time recovery using PostgreSQL 13. So we are directly going to start with the demo, and as usual, everything is going to be placed on a notepad. And before we start, what is continuous archiving and how to perform point-in-time recovery with PostgreSQL, we need to understand one of the thing. Like before we discuss about this, we need to understand what is WAL, which is known as write-ahead logging. So what is WAL in Postgre? So WAL is a standard method of ensuring data integrity. So before the changes which are committed in the Postgre database, before they are returned to the data files, they are returned onto the WAL logs as well. So these are some of the questions which comes up very frequently, like does Postgre have a transaction log? Yes, Postgre has a transaction log which is known as WAL, and WAL has a record of all the events or changes that has changed the WAL data, and it is just a description of the changes which is made to the actual data. Using the Postgre WAL entries, you can restore the database back to the state at its previous state. And where are the Postgre WAL files located? So WAL files are located in their default location under your data directory in pg_wal. And the size of each WAL segment is 16 MB in size. You can modify it according to your requirement. So another popular question for this is what are the WAL files used for? The WAL files, they are used for roll forward journal, and they record the transaction that has been committed against your database. And that's all the basics about your WAL and why we are discussing about it. So we are going to set up our environment in such a way that we will take a backup and we can restore it using those transaction logs to a point in time to a consistent state. We already know that there is a pg_dump and pg_dump all utility which can take a backup of or the snapshot or the database at a particular point of time, but anything which has happened after that, that will not be recorded. So perform all this continuous replication, a continuous archiving and point in recovery in PostgreSQL, we are going to set an EC2 instance. So I'll directly go to the console and launch an EC2 instance, and then we will discuss about it. So I'm going to use RHEL8, the free tier, add storage. So all defaults only, nothing special. So we just wanted to make sure that only I should be able to and PostgreSQL port I am enabling so that I can access it from my system in case it is required. Though this is just for this demo purpose, and then we will say review and launch. I have the private keys already created and located on my system. So once it is available, we are going to work on this. So this is going to take at least a minute or so. In that time, we will try to navigate through the steps. So we are going to launch an EC2 instance. It's just one instance, it is not two. Then we are going to connect with the PuTTY session, and then we will disable the Linux, SC Linux, and we will start from there. Though these steps are not important because we have seen it earlier as well, but I wanted to show it from the beginning. So let me see if the instance, I'll copy the public host name, and I will locate where my keys are, so that once the system is up and ready, we'll directly go over there and start from there. Okay, so I'm waiting for this to get in 2 by 2 checks available. So what we are going to do it, let's navigate through the step. In the first step, we are going to download and configure the PostgreSQL 13 on the Linux EC2 instance. Once the installation is done, now we will set the listen address equal to star or the IP address of the system so that we can connect remotely. We will change the Postgre database user password as well, and then we will enable sudo access to Postgre so that whenever we restart our Postgre instance, it should not ask for us as the root user or the sudo user. So we'll give the sudo access to Postgre. Let us see the status so that I can directly start the steps, because it is going to take at least 25 to 30 minutes. Still it is an initialization phase. Mhm. Still going over there. So let me, sometimes it is very irritating. Okay, and then we are going to add our Postgre OS user to the Sudoers, and then we will reboot it, because initially we disabled the Fire SE Linux. So to just make it effective, we have to do that. Then in our pg_hba.conf, we are going to add the IP addresses, which I am going to access it, and then we are going to restart the Postgre. Then the second step onwards is the step which is required for this demo. So it is already configured, the system is up and running. Let's connect, accept, and we'll go to EC2 hyphen user. Okay, I'm connected. Now let's follow the steps. So we are going to execute the first step. Let's do the SC status. We are going to uh, disable the SE Linux. So what I'm going to do is I'll say vi. It creates a problem. So instead of enforcing, let's and make it disabled. Save it and then move on to the next step. Let's see the um, let's start downloading and configuring the PostgreSQL 13 on EC2 instance. So I'm just going to copy and paste all the 6 commands. I'm not going to discuss, because we have already seen these commands earlier as well. This is going to take a minute or so, and after that we are going to configure the remote access. In remote access, we will just say alter system set listen address equal to the IP address of the system. This shouldn't take less than 30 seconds, I believe so. And back behind the scene, when this continuous archiving and this thing is configured, back behind the scene, it is going to use your pg underscore base backup. So we'll see some more details about pg underscore base backup, which somebody has asked me earlier how to restore it. So the restoration step will be over here. So we will be using the restore command, how to use the restore. So we have seen in one of the session how to take the backup, but we will see how to restore using the backup which has been taken from pg underscore base backup. This is almost done. Just yes, come out. Yes, this is done. And now what we are going to do is, let's switch to the Postgre user. This is done. Now let's say PSQL. We say PSQL, and then we will execute 2 commands. One is alter system set local listen underscore address equal to star or the IP address. We'll cross check it once it is rebooted, and we are going to change the password of Postgre uh, database user. This is also done. Just quit out of this. And one of the things which we should do is we will add the Postgre OS user to the Sudoers. If you do it, the advantage which happens is, um, every time you use Postgre OS user for rebooting the starting the Postgre service, it is not going to ask for the password. So we are enabling. It's a good practice to have it to the restricted mode. So put the details over here. Postgre all and yes, save it. Save it and then we will say reboot. Let's reboot the instance. It will take at least 30 seconds or so because we have changed some of the settings which require the reboot. So once it is done, we are going to change the hba underscore pg underscore hba dot conf file. We are going to add our IP address so that we those IP address will connect to this. It's just a demo, but this is something which you need to make sure that in your organization, if you have to ensure connectivity, you mention this thing in pg underscore hba dot conf file. So we'll say restart session. If it is up, it will allow me to connect. If not, we will wait for another few more seconds. Okay, it is allowing me. So it hardly takes 30 seconds. Now what we are going to do is we will switch to the Postgre user. Sudo su space. We are logged in. Now just update your hba.conf file and add the IP addresses which requires the access to your system with proper the authentication way. So I've just added. So what next we are going to do is let's go to PSQL and just to verify show listen underscore addresses. So we wanted to see this. We will say show listen underscore addresses. Yes, this is fine. Now what we are going to do is we are going to restart our instance and we are going to restart and check the status. It is restarted. Check the status. This is up and running. And then what we are doing is now from here, this is the important step, configuring the continuous archiving on Postgre cluster. So what we are going to do is we are going to configure PostgreSQL cluster to archive the files in a directory which is different from the default data directory. So this is my default data directory, and I'll show you where is the wall going as of now. So there is something called as pg underscore wall. If you see over here, the the walls are here. So you can see this is just created. What we have to do is we have to make a mechanism and we will have to move these walls from this particular location to somewhere else. This is not the correct way to put it over there, but since I don't have any other file system, so what I will do is I'll create a directory under the data directory which is pg13 underscore archive. So I have created it. So everything will be done through the service user, which is Postgre. This is the first step. Then what we will do is we will add it our PostgreSQL.conf file. So the first thing which we will do is you just have to make sure the location of your configuration file. So if you say show config underscore file, you will be able to see the location of PostgreSQL.conf. The next thing which you will do is you will add it and you will add three important parameters which is mandatory for your this demo. So first thing is archive mode on. You have to make sure that archive mode is on. So in PostgreSQL.conf, search for this. By default, this will be off. You need to make it on. So this is on. This is first parameter. The second parameter is the archive command where you wanted to move your archive. So by default, these will be in the default mode and they will be appearing as commented. So uncomment and you need to make the changes over there. In our case, we wanted to move the archive to this location. So you have to put this command over here. This is just a location which I have mentioned and ensure that it is put in the same format. And an example is already mentioned over here. So we are just following it. There's nothing great about it. It is just like you maintain the proper, what do you say, spacing between them. Okay, this is the second part, and the third part is wall level. By default, wall level will be in replica mode. This is the minimum which is required. Ensure that you have the information captured uh, to your so these are the three parameters which you need to put it, and then we will restart the. Now what we are going to do is three parameters which are there, and they need the recycle of your system. So we will say sudo and we will recycle the sudo systemctl restart PostgreSQL 13. It is done. Just check the status. It's done. Go to PSQL command prompt and verify all the three uh, status of all the three. One is the archive mode, which is on. Another is archive underscore command, which we have just created. A third is the wall level. And then what we are going to do is just see some information. By default, wall level is 16 MB, and Postgre will archive wall file once it is full. In case you wanted to forcefully switch it, you need to use this command. So let's say if I wanted to switch it forcefully, I should do this. So this is going to forcefully switch it. And then third step which we are going to do is we are going to initiate a physical backup of the PostgreSQL 13. So what we are going to do is for PostgreSQL point in time recovery, we need to take a physical backup of Postgre cluster. And what we will do is we have to take a copy of all the data files in Postgre 13 data directory, assuming everything is in the default location. So what we will do is we will execute PSQL and we will just check what is our data directory. The data directory is that current one. In your case, it may be something else. So what we will do is we wanted to take a backup of our cluster using the PG based backup. So we will create a directory. For my case, it is just one file system I have. This is not the best way, but you need to have it somewhere separately. I just created a PG underscore PG13 underscore backup. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a backup. It's very straightforward. PG backup hyphen capital D, and I just mentioned the complete location of the backup. Thus going to copy and paste the entire content of data directory to this location. And now we are going to test the PostgreSQL point in time recovery. What is the prerequisite? The prerequisite is latest physical backup of the Postgres cluster should be have been taken using PG base backup. We have done that. We should have enabled archiving and wall files to some non-default location. We have done that, and now we will try to perform the point in time recovery. So what we will do is let's stop the cluster because we wanted to do everything on this cluster itself. What I'm going to do is just clear the screen and stop the cluster. Just check the status, everything is down. Now what we will do is we are going to rename the data directory of Postgre cluster. we are just simulating like we have lost the data. So what we will do is I'm going to rename the data directory so that we cannot start our system. So instead of deleting all the contents of the data directory, I'm just going to remove it. So if you go to this particular location and try to find data, you will not be able to see it. And what you need to do is you need to create it. Let's create the data directory again, and you will be able to see that there is no content inside that. And if you see this, there it is empty. Now what you have to do is we are going to restore using the cp command. So what has been done so far? We have lost the environment. There is nothing inside that. You cannot restart your system. And what we are going to do is we are going to restore the database or the entire cluster which we have taken the backup using pg underscore base backup. Now what we are going to do is all the contents, it is available over here because we have put the backup in this location. If you see ls, you will be able to see everything is it is same the way it was there in data directory. This is just a kind of cp which has been done by pg underscore base backup. Now what we are doing is using cp-a command, we are trying to copy everything to the data directory which you had earlier. So just copy and paste using this cp command. If you go to your new the data directory location, now you will be able to see everything has been copied using cp command. What next we are going to do is, this is going to be very important, otherwise your cluster will never come up. Ensure honor is postgre /postgre for this particular data directory, and the permission is 700. So what we will do is uh, you need to make sure the permission is 700, otherwise during the startup of the cluster it will not come up. So you can verify you have made the changes. Now what next we are going to do is the wall files in the pg underscore wall directory are restored from pg base backup. They are old. Let's say I have restored it from the older environment. Then if you see this, let's say I have restored it from a backup which I had taken yesterday. So pg underscore wall will have the older wall files, but I wanted the latest one. So what I will do is remove everything from here just to simulate it, rm minus rf star. And then what we will do is now we are going to restore the wall files which were available to this particular location. So just control C to the location, because you remember we renamed our data directory to data underscore old, and this pg underscore val will have that data. So if you say ls, you can see the data over there. So what I will do is I just wanted to copy this from all from here to the to the wall directory. Is it copied? Cp hyphen a star to this. So if I go to pg val location, I should be able to see everything. And one more thing we have to do is, since we have started the archiving, whatever is there in the archive location, in the backup archive location, we have to restore it from there. You can see there are some files available over here. So you have to copy it from there as well. Copy everything from here as well to the pg wall location, because these will be required when it is being restored. There's also, so if you go to pg underscore val, you will be able to see there are a lot of val files. So the only thing is we restored the data files into data underscore directory, which is this particular location where lib PSQL 13 data, and we have restored back the the wall files to pg underscore well. And one more thing which we have to do is, since we have restored it from the backup, we need to there is something called as okay, let me do this. Just go to pg postgresql.conf file and for restore command. You wanted to restore back the files. Just mention the location your where you archived your files. Once this is done, what you have to do is you have a number of options for the recovery. You can recover the target to a particular timestamp, to a particular transaction ID, to a particular log sequence number, or the name of the restore point if you have created something before doing some activity, and if you wanted to restore that, you can do it. And there are some of the things which are available. There is something called as recovery underscore target. If you do not mention it, so it will try to apply all the available wall files and try to bring it up to a consistent state. This is the default one. So before starting the Postgre, you make sure that you start the PostgreSQL in recovery mode. How can you do that? You create an empty file in PostgreSQL data directory, which is called as recovery.signal. So it is going to look for that. So what you have to do is you have to ensure that you mention this. So this should be available, recovery dot, yes, and now try to restart it. Just check the status. It is down. It is expected to be down because we have removed everything, and this is the first time we are trying to start. Oh, wow, this is started. Normally there will be the issues with the um, status. Yes, see, it is up and running. So what you need to do is you can check the log files to make sure what it has done. Just say ls-ltr and do a view what it has done. So okay, it is trying to find out some of the history files which we have already restored to the actual location. You have already copied it in the wall location, and where from where it is starting the disk system. Okay, consistent recovery state reached at this particular point. So during the restoration, it has applied whatever wall files it was available for it to start the database. These are not available because we have moved it to the pg underscore wall location. Otherwise, you have the option to put it at a particular point in time, and you can, and this is a great thing, and all the environment should have this kind of this thing setting, so that you can restore and recover your wall according to your requirement. So just a recap of what we have done is we have set up the continuous archiving and perform the point in time recovery. What we everything behind this is wall. You need to ensure your wall is properly configured. The first thing, we initiated a Postgre 13 instance on EC2, and then what we have done in the second stage, which is the most important stage, is we have configured continuous archiving. To configure the continuous archiving, there are three parameters which are enabled: archive mode on, archive command, where do you want to keep the archive. So we have created a directory outside the data directory it should have been, but in my case it is, I have made it over there. Then we have enabled the wall level, like what kind of information the changes you wanted to capture. This is the minimum requirement. This is what we want for our environment. Then we restarted, so we made the changes in the postgresql.conf file. Then we restarted and we cross-checked if everything is as per our requirement. And then we tried switching some of the wall files just to make sure they are archived and they are not in the default location. Then we initiated a physical backup of the PostgreSQL 13 using pg underscore base backup. What we created it, we created just a backup location, and using pg underscore base backup we mentioned the location, and all the data files are copied over there. And during the just to test the point in time recovery, we stopped the cluster. We excuse me, we renamed the data directory to data underscore old, and then we created the data directory again so that it is empty. We cross-checked it. Then using the cp command, using operating system cp command, everything which was available in pg base backup excuse me, they have been restored back to data directory. And the important part is you need to make sure the permission is 700 for the data directory. Once it is done, you make sure the walls are restored. Else you mention the information in your postgresql.conf file for the restore command, like they are available at this particular location. And you have to create a and what you have to do is there is an important parameter recovery underscore target. It has a lot of options available according to your requirement, but in our case we wanted to take consistent state. Whatever archives are available, we wanted to apply all of them. And there is important parameter which we need to create in our data directory, which is recovery dot signal. We need to create a blank file. And then finally we started the PostgreSQL 13, and it started uh, uh, actually. I hope this is going to help, and try to test it out couple of times, and probably in some other session we will see how to use different options. Maybe restore point is a good idea to test it out. We will test it out and we will see how it is going to behave. I hope this is going to help, and thank you.